You're listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch TV about girls with boys' names.
Just always girls with boys' names.
Always girls with boys' names. They're the cool ones.
And spinning compasses.
Oh my god. There are so many common tropes in this. I wrote them all down. I was like, oh wait, that's from, I mean, not from X-Files, but like that's something we saw in X-Files. That's something we saw in Yellow Jackets. It was like over and over and over again.
This episode has everything.
It has everything.
It's so funny because I've watched a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark in the recent year or so. It was an old favorite of mine. Oh, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Jodie.
And we watched Are You Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of it in the recent year or so. It's was one of my absolute favorite shows as a child. I think if you know anything about my taste now, that's not surprising. But
no.
This is one I hadn't watched in a little while. But it's one that, like, when I think of the most frightening images from Are You Afraid of the Dark that are burned into my brain, this episode has a few of them. And so I went back to watch this one when I was deciding what we were going to watch, hoping, I was like, man, I hope we can get some stuff out of this one. And then it's
yeah.
It's perfect.
It's literally everything we've ever talked about.
Yeah. And
like,
also
jammed in.
Yeah. And then when we get to I Saw the TV Glow, you're going to be like, oh,
yeah,
obviously this is the one. So,
before we start, can we do a little, Dawson's check-in?
I would. Yeah. It's time for Creek Corner.
Creek Corner. So first of all, I was going to have you like drop this into our next episode because we're a little bit out of order, but I'm just going to say it here. I was listening back to our last Dawson's check-in and I referred to Joey as being like, I think I referred to her as asexual, and she's not asexual. That's an actual thing. She's
anti-sex.
She's anti-sex and judgmental about other people.
Yeah.
And like, it's just been sticking in my head. I have friends who are asexual. That's an actual thing. She is not. She is just a nag. And a like judgy person.
That's so she really is. And not all asexuals are judgy people. No, I'm sure most of them are.
Not all asexuals, no. I listened to that back and I was like, wait, that's not the word I meant to use there. That is just like old vocabulary sneaking in. But anyway, I just had to say that because she's still annoying me with her weird sex stuff. But
the show is that I could talk forever about the like.
I mean, I think we have to have a wrap up episode when I finish, which may be sooner than tomorrow. You think. Do you want to know where I'm at?
Well, okay, so I know last night you were, or was it
yeah.
Whenever you last updated
for a little peek behind the curtain, what has happened since we started watching Dawson's Creek, or since we watched the pilot of Dawson's Creek, is that every couple of nights I will send a diatribe of texts to Andrea that she does not answer, that are just my reactions as I continue to watch this show. She almost never responds with any, like, you know, reactions or hints or anything else. So I'm talking to myself on Andrea's text messages.
I love catching up though. Often I'm like in bed. I've been working really hard on trying to get a better sleep schedule, which means sometimes I will go to bed at 9:00 and then I will still be up until like 1. But I'm typically not checking my texts and stuff.
That's incredible, though. I'm proud of you.
I'm not doing a good job.
You're trying, though.
I'm being completely unproductive when I normally would still be working and still awake. But
you're trying.
But I am trying. But so then I'll often catch up the next morning, and it's a real highlight for me. So please don't stop.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think last I knew you were about halfway through season 4, and I have a feeling that you are not yet halfway through season 5.
No, I am at season 4, episode 12. This has gone on. This is happening very fast.
Happy.
This is happening very fast. Anyway, we watched Are You Afraid of the Dark?
We did. What you had little familiarity. I mean, I know you know it was a show, but had you watched any Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Nope. This was again age-wise just out of my. It was like because when I started, the first note I took was, what age is this for? Because it was definitely for a younger person than me at the time. You said this was 94?
92. Well, this episode was 94.
Okay.
So you would have been
I would have been a freshman in college.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I graduated high school in 93.
Okay.
Yes, really. Yes, I'm actually that old.
No, that's not. It's more that like there's some of our stuff that we both have liked. When I ask how old you are, it feels like we were closer in age, but I think it's just
Right.
like this window is such a
Well, it's also
like
a lot of the stuff we've watched was like teen shows that moved into college age. And so you could kind of see where, even though it wasn't something I actually watched, it could have been because like I was in college when they were in high school, or I was just out of college when they were in college. This is like a kid's show.
And a lot of the stuff we've watched was stuff that I was too young to be watching in the first place. But this is not that. This show is, it premiered August 15th, 1992. So I would have been 6. So this show, again, I was young. I was young, a little younger for this show than it was intended. And it's probably why I'm such a scaredy cat now. Still, I love horror and will watch just about anything, but I do get genuinely frightened while I do it. I just like being scared.
I mean, for me, this reminded me immediately of Tales from the Crypt, which came out when I was 13, which is old enough to not be scared by it, but I was definitely scared by it. I mean, I was also cheesed out by it a little bit because it was kind of like the effects were really bad, but the Crypt Keeper himself was a lot for me to take, even though I did watch it.
Yeah, what a good show. Crypt Keeper was for, obviously, I think that was an HBO show, right? It was definitely for older audiences.
I think so, yeah.
Censors or anything.
Yeah. We had cable from when I was really young because my dad wanted to watch every sports game that was ever on television. So I also got MTV and HBO and all of those things.
Yeah, same. I mean, not because of sports, but because my grandparents were weirdly television obsessed. I think I've talked about that on this.
The VHS collection.
Yeah,
and
they were
yeah.
movies and TV.
But
I mean, the anthology, the like horror specifically, but the TV anthology series with like some loose framing device that then, I mean, it's the Twilight Zone. Like you can't watch a show like this and not think Twilight Zone. I think, like you said, Tales from the Crypt is a good one. Even like Jim Henson's The Storyteller, which is not horror, but is somebody
that has like that framing convention.
Yeah, where like the frame is somebody specifically telling you the story. And the awareness that the story is fictional within the reality of the show.
And like I know that I bring up Stephen King a lot, but like when I think of my relationship to horror, it all but goes back to him. And so I think like the fact that I kind of stopped watching horror is whatever, but before that it was all Stephen King, and then Tales from the Crypt, other TV shows that like kind of danced around these kind of things. Right. So there was a period of time when I was into this kind of stuff, but by 94 I was watching Sex and the City, as we have discussed. Not watching kids tell stories around a campfire.
Are you a Twilight Zone fan?
I've watched some of it. I wouldn't call myself a fan. It was not my not something that I like intentionally watched, but I think my dad was kind of into it.
That's an all-time for me. That's a show that like it used to be that there would be a Twilight Zone marathon on the Sci-Fi Network on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, and that would be I would be like parked in front of the TV. And now that you can watch it streaming, it doesn't have that, but it was like that was a huge tradition for me every year.
Yeah, it would be on in my house occasionally, and I would watch it with my dad, I think, but it wasn't something that I would like intentionally seek out.
Okay. And
I was a book nerd, and so I was reading horror, but I wasn't watching as much of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This episode that we watched, The Tale of Watcher's Woods, is a little more straightforward horror story, but Are You Afraid of the Dark? And also we're into season 3, so they've done a lot by now. But it would often be like, I think the first episode is a retelling of like the Monkey's Paw Tale. So there's a lot of like, there's like hitchhiker stories, like urban legends, old like adapted.
Yeah.
Kind of
well, it's like It's Buffy, it's X-Files, it's all of those series that, like, you know, Buffy starts as a vampire thing, but it doesn't stay just vampires. Like, it's demons and, right?
Yeah.
Ish.
Like
it comes back to vampires always, but
yeah, no, there's definitely like ghosts and demons and all kind of
and like
monsters and sharks that walk on land, and we'll just drop that one in there for you.
I mean, and then X-Files is like, you know, it's not just aliens.
Right.
It's like, you know, all sorts of supernatural stuff. So
yeah, the thing about Are You Afraid of the Dark is that there doesn't need to be internal consistency from story to story, so they really can just do any old thing.
Which is fun. It like opens it up a bit.
Yeah. There's the one that is most frightening for me, people often list as one of the worst episodes. It's so 90s. It's one about these kids who live in this weird apartment building, and they end up at this apartment where the story is that it's their toy makers testing out different toys.
Okay.
But it's actually, I won't spoil it too much, but it's way more sci-fi than horror. There's like aliens and stuff. I guess I did just spoil it kind of, but it really just does a little bit of everything. I picked one that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's literally, it references everything we've ever talked about. It's so funny. Like, I half expected there to be like some allusion to the Jersey Devil. Like, I mean, kind of.
I mean, just in the way that like,
that like
loves
the thing
in the woods.
Yeah, well, the thing in the woods, and also the thing that can like, you will get lost if you end up in its area. Like, it will trick you in terms of like, that's when we watched what was that crazy movie where the woman ended up wrapped in plastic? Lost Broadcast. Like that, and also Blair Witch, the idea of like going to the woods and suddenly you're walking in circles, and it's like, are you lost, or is it the woods like moving on you? Right. Was here also. Yeah,
totally. I remember Are You Afraid of the Dark as just being categorically like oftentimes scary, but always cheesy and like pretty surface level. But I was really thinking about this one. There's a lot going on in this episode. Like,
yeah, no, I as soon as I started watching it, I was like, oh, I see why this was the one that was chosen. Because literally, I didn't write down each television reference, but there's so many that it's almost ridiculous.
Yeah.
So how should we cover this? Do you want to talk through the story and see what it sparks?
Yeah, I kind of think so. The episode's only 25 minutes long.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, let's try to recap the Yellow Jackets episode. We're here 3 hours later.
Yeah. So first thing, before we even get into the story, the opening credits for Are You Afraid of the Dark are maybe my favorite opening credits. They are fully iconic for me. Those images, that like boat on the water. That's probably, I think Dawson's Creek is directly inspired by these.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sure.
Definite Dawson's Creek connection.
Yeah.
Here.
And like the swing and the like hobo clown. It's just,
coming off of watching Buffy, I'm just kind of like, it's another like fade in, fade out image, so 90s. Like, yeah. It's so 90s.
That's part of what makes it so good. I know we usually save the Jersey reference for the end, or the Jersey connection for the end. I couldn't find one. I don't know if you even.
I didn't really look that hard.
The show is so Canadian that it's like.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But there's a band from Asbury Park called the Black Flamingos, who did like a kind of surf rocky cover of the Are You Afraid of the Dark theme song in like.
Oh, that's fun.
So I know nothing about this band. Just that's all I found.
That's really fun, though.
So that's where we start. And then we open on the campfire. Jodie, you could probably gather from just this opening that the cast of characters does rotate a little bit.
Right.
There are only one or two actors who stay with the show. So Gary, who's kind of like the lead.
Okay.
The like nerd.
I didn't register anyone in that circle except for the guy that sounded like he was in West Side Story. Frank.
Yeah, Frank is voice he was like in he was like one of the main kids, one of the main voices for the kids in Magic School Bus. I don't know if you looked into any of the cast. Most of them don't go on to do much else after this.
I didn't really recognize any of them from anything later.
Sam is.
She looked familiar, but I didn't. hunt that down.
That's Joanna Garcia at the time, Joanna Garcia Swisher now. But she's in a show now called Sweet Magnolias that she's been in forever, but you might know her from, she's like one of those people who's in a billion things. She is in an episode of Dawson's Creek that you have already seen, but I think she's uncredited. I don't even know if she has any lines, but she's in Dawson's birthday episode. She's in like a few episodes of Party of Five, which I can't remember. Did you watch?
I did watch Party of Five.
The thing
I have very little memory of it, but
the thing you'll most
like as an
know
adult.
her from though is Freaks and Geeks. She's in 5 episodes. She's
okay.
Vicky Appleby. I don't know.
Yeah, no. When I'm seeing her as an adult, that makes sense. Okay,
she's one of the few who, again,
she hosted The Ultimatum Queer Love on Netflix. What?
Okay. I don't know how I missed that. She's also in every episode of Reba. So, like, she's done.
She's married to the baseball player Nick Swisher.
Incredible.
Wow. That's really funny.
Yeah. What a fun discovery. Thank you so much.
Huh. That's great.
So she's the, like, biggest name in that little mix that you
yeah,
know.
she looked familiar, but but it's hard to tell at like when they're that young, like what they look like when they're older.
Exactly. Much more importantly, though, she has a boy's name, and it does not exclude any of them
that she could possibly be a girl.
They are shocked, and
that was a little much for me. I was like, okay, come on. 1994, girls had boys' names. It was the thing.
Yeah, most girls had boys' names in 1994. I feel like.
Yeah.
But because she has a boy's name, of course, she's also kind of a badass. So I love that she like crushes Frank's hand.
Yep. Yep.
And then
she also has the classic like brown leather bomber jacket that we all had in 1994, including me. Yeah.
I was a little young, but I'm sure that I coveted one. That's also it's her initiation, so her story's got to be really good. She says, like, I'm picking one that sort of fits the scenes. I have a lot of stories I could tell. A lot of her stories, I was looking through, like, which episode belongs to whom, and she's got, like, a pretty good hit rate for episodes that I really like. I don't know how they figure that out on the show, that Sam's just going to be one of the better ones.
Wait, are you trying to tell me these aren't her actual stories? That is not just this child, like, coming up with it?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So sorry to break the
the illusion
there. But speaking of 90s, that shot of, so then we get to camp and it's just a million 30-year-old people in flannels.
I immediately texted you. I literally just found a letter that I wrote to my parents from summer camp begging them to come get me.
So funny the time.
Because I hated it so much. I hated sleepaway camp. Like, I was so miserable, and it was such a funny letter, but I remember how much I hated it. And immediately then, like, 2 days later, you make me watch something about a summer camp.
I promise the timing.
It's like exposure therapy.
Yeah, the timing wasn't on purpose, but we are going to spend some time hanging out at camp
the
next couple of weeks. And I never went to sleepaway camp. I would have been such a baby about it. There's no way it would have.
I was not happy. It's so funny that I go camping now, like, voluntarily, because the whole thing was about the overnight trip that we had to take. Like, we were in cabins. I don't know why these people are in tents. That's not a normal summer camp thing that I know of. Right. They're normally in cabins, but we had to go on an overnight trip where we would be out in tents sleeping outside. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. I am from Bergen County, New Jersey. Like, we don't sleep outside. Like, it's the most populous county.
Maybe that's why I didn't go to...
Because you already had the woods around you?
I lived in South Jersey. Yeah, we were just... Yeah. We went... I don't know. I think I've talked about my camping here.
At Sandy Hook, right?
No,
or
Parvin State Park.
Parvin State Park, cabins.
You're thinking of Island Beach State Park, where we parked. Yeah. We would camp on the beach in a camper. But also, when we went camping in the woods, they were cabins with electricity and bathrooms. So
right.
That was... There's
us
my Nintendo and a TV. Like, it was
us city adjacent kids that we're surrounded by concrete. We needed some trees every now and then.
Once in a while.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this podcast. I don't think I have, but I know I've talked about the two different parts of Bergen County that I lived in. One being very like blue collar, close to Passaic County, like a little less money. and then the like nicer part of Bergen County where it's like fancier. But my mom grew up in like fancy Bergen County. And when I was a kid, I was afraid of the trees in Ridgewood.
Because they were
so big. Like Ridgewood has like, when you think of tree lined streets with the trees kind of like arching over the road, that's what it looked like where she grew up. Where I grew up, the trees were like these like short stumpy things.
Right. That they
like,
had planted when they last repaved the streets or whatever.
Right. And so I was literally, my mom will tell me this, like she would drive down like these nice, beautiful streets of nice homes in Ridgewood, and I would be like afraid of the trees because they were so big. So yeah, that's I don't know how we got there, but yeah, I was not a nature kid.
That is funny because now you're one of my camping friends.
Yeah, I'm a nature adult. I just wasn't a nature kid. It was very traumatic.
So funny.
Yeah,
I love camp letters. It's so funny. Because it is like, I think kids at the time, like, I'll bet you really thought you might die.
I really thought I might die.
And then
like, something was going to bite me and it was going to kill me.
We talked about this last week. I don't remember if it was on mic or not, but just the idea then that you thought you told your mom that you were in imminent danger and she didn't care.
Nothing. She did nothing.
She knew. You told her.
She did nothing.
You might die.
Yeah. And she just left me there.
Like,
yeah.
This fucking kid, I'm going to see her in 3 days. Like, how long was camp? Was it a week?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. And also,
which is an eternity.
Yeah.
When you're a kid.
I was like 12.
And how many weeks of summer vacation do we have? Like, what?
I think it was
12? Like,
yeah. But I was 11 or 12.
Oh yeah, probably 8. Yeah.
And also in my head, that camp was like 3 hours from home. I always imagined it was in like upstate New York or somewhere in Pennsylvania. It was in Western New Jersey.
Wait, I asked you, did you just figure this out? Because when I asked you, I think you said...
No, I hadn't looked up the...
Where was it?
My mom has the envelope as well, because I wrote private all over the envelope so the camp staff wouldn't read it.
You said in a text to me like you thought you were in prison.
Yeah, I was. I didn't want my wardens to read my letters home. But the camp that I went to still exists. It's a YMCA camp. It's called Camp Bernie. It's in Warren County, New Jersey.
It's closer to you than it is to me, I think.
It is in Lebanon Township or Port Murray.
So funny.
I was an hour from home.
You could have walked home.
In my head, I was at least 3 hours away, abandoned in the woods
across
with ants. Lines. With ants and rocks. Yes. Yes. And mean girls, of course.
Yes.
So many mean girls.
Perfect segue. Mean girls like Kelly.
Oh, yes. We're talking about a television show, not my personal trauma. I'm sorry.
It's all the same to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've got the nerd and we've got the bitchy girl.
Of course. And it's funny because first of all, she's fancy because she brought her stuff in a fucking steamer trunk. Yeah. She's going to be on the Titanic. So
the steamer trunk is a thing, though. Summer camps. So it's a real thing. My cousin's kids and my mother and her sisters went to a camp in New Hampshire called Camp Huggins. Mm-hmm. There's a brother camp named Camp Belknap that the male members of my extended family have gone to. And they are required to bring their stuff in steamer trunks.
Why?
I think because they put them at the end of the bed and they live out of them. There's no... Yeah, it is. Like I said, you're in a prison.
Well, that's good to know. Not everybody. She seems to be the only one.
I know. But she's been there before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd think then Sarah, who's like Miss Camp, Miss Trailblazer, even though it's her first time at this camp, would know. Yeah, but apparently not. She's too busy getting medals to worry about what she's packing her stuff in.
Yes. Also, okay, I know I keep making us not talk about the show, but I have this memory of, if anyone is listening that is under the age of 35, what I'm about to say is going to be really shocking. I think it might still exist. There was a group in New Jersey and probably other places that was sort of a Girl Scout adjacent group called Indian Princesses.
Oh my God, don't remember this.
You don't know this? I think you're a little young. this is what this made me think of, because there's like the references to like Indian legend, which of course was a thing in the 90s. We were like, you know, turning Indigenous Americans into mythologies. But yeah, Indian princesses. I think it might still exist. If it does, it shouldn't.
Macaulay.com. Open to every father with a daughter, kindergarten to 7th grade.
Indian princesses.
I think, was it a YMCA thing?
It might have been, yeah, because we did a lot of those, like,
Whoa,
you know, stuff
Jodie,
for low income people.
Hold on,
What?
I think this is a bigger thing than you know, like a more scam. I just found an article from 2018, Guiding in the Wrong Direction: The Problematic Ongoing History of the Adventure Guides.
Huh. Because there's the Indian Guides program, which was for boys, and then there was the Indian Princesses program.
The YMCA's Indian Princess program was and continues to be culturally insensitive in a way that is shocking even by American standards.
So this is still going on?
In 2018 it was. It seems like they maybe changed the name of it.
This is something that I assumed had been phased out in like 1995.
It also feels like the fact that this is something that totally feels like it would have been like a deep dark secret of New Jersey's past, but the fact is
no, it's national apparently.
National?
Yeah, they've changed it to adventure guides and adventure the word princess is still in there though.
A program for children with an Edwardian sensibility and a village people aesthetic.
Oh my god, that's perfect.
Fascinating.
Yeah, my dad and I did it briefly. Yes, that headband and feather made me an Indian princess, a modern day program for children. Oh my god, yeah. So this is it. Kendra James is the one who wrote this. Every time I mention this to someone who's never heard of it, I feel like I'm unlocking some, like...
I can't believe how long it's, even under a different name, the fact that it's still allowed to...
It's still around. It's just adventure guides now.
But so we learn... I'm going to bring us back. Good Lord.
Okay, bring us back. You can do it.
But I'm the one...
I know, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble. Kelly is immediately... So here's one of the first things. We talk about when the new person shows up. Usually it's at a high school that we've talked about lately.
Right.
But this is similar. And every time I'm surprised when the popular girl is nice to the new girl. And maybe it's because of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because Kelly is immediately so nasty. I mean, it's not only because of Are You Afraid of the Dark, of course.
This is much more the norm than the ones where they're nice. Yeah. She's really, really mean and sarcastic. I also...
In a very 90s way.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. It's so funny to me how 90s this meanness is. Mm-hmm. It's just so overt.
But like overt, but also like when she's making fun of her vest, she's like, for cleaning up all the pollution in the world. It's like, that would actually be great if she did that. So I don't know what your deal is.
Sincerity was very frowned upon in the 90s.
Exactly. But also we know Kelly's so cool because she's got a pink denim jacket. And
it's a pretty cool jacket.
It is a pretty cool jacket. Yeah. And Sarah's not cool because she's wearing like khaki shorts and has her shirt tucked in and
she is wearing the vest.
And is dedicated to collecting medals and doing a good job.
Did you know girls like that?
No.
The hardcore Girl Scouts that were like, I did.
Yeah, no.
I did. Yeah. That were like, their identity was their Girl Scout badges.
Funny.
I knew some of them when I was younger.
Yeah, I don't think we had any where I grew up. It wasn't like, as far as I know, even like a robust Boy and Girl Scouts in Camden County. I could be wrong about that.
It would be interesting to see how that kind of plays out in different demographic areas, but also like rural versus urban. Like if it's more common to do those kinds of like, let's learn how to make a fire for people that grow up in like, you know, the concrete suburbs.
Right. Yeah. Cosplaying.
Yeah, exactly.
Rural children.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, we go into the big main building, I guess, and
the lodge.
The lodge.
Funny. Everything about the scene is perfect to me.
You also didn't warn me that there were going to be. I mean, I know they're not rats.
I was going to say,
mice,
I wouldn't warn you that there were going to be rats because there aren't any.
But I also don't like mice. I don't know. Maybe because the kids didn't want to be around rats.
But then just say mice.
Yeah, but rats sound scarier.
But it makes way more sense for there to be mice in the woods than rats.
Yes.
Rats aren't wood dwelling. Like that's not
right.
They're also clearly like
they're like pet store mice.
Pet store mice.
Yeah, they're little white mice you can buy in a pet store.
Field mice.
Yeah.
So, but fine, whatever.
Yeah, I still didn't like them all writhing around in a bucket.
So you made it through the craft. I figured you could survive one mouse bucket.
Yes, except I knew what was coming with the craft.
When they're in the lodge, and first we hear bats. Kelly's like, they hate music. That is what you're playing, Sylvie, isn't it? Like, why is she being mean about?
She's being mean to everyone,
just for no reason. We find out why in like a couple of scenes after this, why she's got such an attitude problem. But there's a really good bit where they mention Sarah sees the sign, the like plaque,
the memorial
for the three girls, and she says, "What's Watcher's Woods?" And then Sylvie on the piano hits that like discordant.
It was great. So classic.
Bit. Yeah. So do you want to tell me what the legend of Watcher's Woods is?
Three girls went into the woods. There's apparently a watcher in the woods.
Demon.
Not the same as the watcher in New Jersey.
I swear I didn't pick this one just because of the name, but here we are.
I mean,
what if it is the same watcher? Did you
maybe
finish? You watched the whole season, right?
Fuck. Yes, I did.
We don't know for sure.
No, because the fucking show answered nothing.
Maybe this is why. Maybe
don't get me angry about that television show again. I can't do it. For those who, if there's people that haven't been around since the beginning, the reason this show is called The Watchers is because Andrea made me watch a really bad television show called The Watcher about New Jersey.
Is it bad?
Yes.
Oh.
It is incredibly
bad. It's not good. I still don't know if it is bad.
No, it's bad.
Okay.
It's bad with a veneer of like production value. Anyway, so there's a watcher in the woods. If you go into his part of the woods, he will like trick you and make you get lost and move things around.
Well, why don't you just stay out of his part of the woods?
Well, you're supposed to.
It travels, though.
Yeah, it does travel. You don't always know where it's going to be. But so the legend is the three girls from, it was like 1919.
75 years ago tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly, of course. Maybe they were suffragists that were trying to get the right to vote. And they got trapped in the woods by the patriarchy. So there's this demon that guards the woods. And then, so in 1919, three girls went into the woods. They were never found again. They blipped, as it was referred to, which was a very Leftovers thing. I was like, oh, it's the Leftovers. They were blipped.
They got blipped.
Yeah.
I really like that. That's not slang that anybody... That's really specific slang. Nobody says blipped.
They were blipped or departed, if you have watched The Leftovers. And only their whistles were left, which is such a camp thing also. Yeah. The, like, danger whistle.
Everything, yeah.
And so the plaque had the three pictures and then the three whistles, which, of course, will come back around.
It's pretty good. And this is where we learn that Kelly hates rats. So much so that she can't identify mice.
This is where I really related to Kelly. I would not have stayed in that lodge if there were rats or bats, for that matter.
Oh,
I can objectively understand that there's nothing wrong with those creatures, and that but
they just makes it a phobia.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be rational.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get paired up.
Of course, yes. They have to go find nature specimens, which that part sounded fun to me. Walking around in the woods and like finding like rocks and acorns and nests and things. Like, I'm into that.
How many? So did you only go to camp once?
I only went to sleepaway camp once. Yes. You couldn't have you would have had to chain me to the bumper of the car to get me to go again.
Because I'm wondering, do kids spend a lot of time unsupervised in the woods?
No.
I didn't think so.
Absolutely not.
Maybe in the 90s.
No, because I went to camp in how old was I? So it's late 80s. We were not left unsupervised, although the people supervising us were teenagers.
Right. So it doesn't...
We were essentially unsupervised, even though there were technically people responsible for us. Yes. They wouldn't have sent us off into the woods 2 by 2 to like our death.
That was my question.
No, we were not supervised the way we are today, but...
We get a bit of foreshadowing because they say no fires while they're out. And we learned that Kelly's a smoker.
This is so 90s. I loved it so much.
A 12-year-old smoker.
I knew them. I knew them.
100%.
Yeah.
Many,
it's just so funny to see it on screen as if it was totally normal, because it was, but it's not now.
Yeah. And like the issue for Sarah more than anything was that the fire alert was.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't light it. You can't set a fire. You can't light your lighter.
It's a little bit of Jen Lindley, where it's like back home.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I always had a lighter on me when I was a preteen.
Well, Kelly has to be a smoker because we have to have a lighter.
Yeah. Although, even when I wasn't a smoker.
Camper. And also as a camper, you might have, I guess, maybe matches, but.
Maybe she was like I was, where she would hang out with her friends and like burn leaves with lighter and hairspray for fun on the overpass over the highway. That's a normal.
That's one of those. Is that a 90s thing, or is it a Jersey thing, or is it? It's just
probably
both, and therefore much more common.
Yeah.
But we learn. Sarah says she's there because she likes to be there, and then that's when we learn this is why Kelly's got an attitude problem.
Lots of people have bad parents, Kelly.
I know.
You don't got to be a bitch.
Yeah, and she's so mean. Like when she's like, "Fine, I'll cut you a deal." This is where things really start. She's like, "I'll show you a pheasant's nest if we can cut out and go swimming." And who's not from New Jersey is Sarah, because she falls for this.
Yes, I know. It's very naive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally wrote down, "Don't trust this chick."
Yeah. Why would you?
Yeah.
And of course, Kelly immediately runs off with both of their packs, which is brutal. Yeah. You could have left.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's rough. That's like, that goes from like bullying to actually endangering a child.
Exactly.
In the woods.
And they both wander around lost in the woods.
Yeah. She gets stuck first. Mm-hmm. She sees cheesy special effects from the 90s always take me out of these things. I wish we never saw the demon's face.
It's so funny because I love it so much.
Yeah.
I get so much joy, especially because, and we'll talk about this. I want to put a little pin in this for a couple of weeks from now. Okay. I remember being so frightened by the Watcher, and then the witches,
women, the witches,
human women, as a kid, and it doesn't. The effects don't hold up, but in my mind, I still remember. I mean, you can literally, when you get to the camp, see the fishing line holding the floating little candles really clearly.
Yep. And like, it reminded me of my reaction to the Buffy special effects.
Right.
It's like, come on. It's almost like when we were watching Blair Witch, I think the reason that it held up for me was because we never see anything.
Right.
It's all implied. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have a chance for that stuff to age badly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this did not age well.
No, but it's still eerie in a different kind of uncanny way. Like when so we see the Watcher, and there's like weird, like kind of like Labyrinth or like Return to Oz vibes for me with him. He's just kind of like flitting about, and he's got like the tree wrapped around him, which I think is, again, it's not scary, but I think it's kind of cool in like a almost campy way.
Yeah.
Almost. It's like,
also gave me Stranger Things vibes.
I don't know enough.
I only watched the first season, but there's a lot about going inside of trees.
Oh,
and trees being like portals to other places.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I gotta say, the Watcher's just protecting his woods. I would love to talk about who the real villain is in this episode.
Well, there's one line in the beginning where I'm like, oh, this is an environmental parable, because she's talking about how he's protecting the woods because people are tearing it down. Mm-hmm. And then they never mention it again. But it's like, actually, that's why he's protecting his woods.
Sam gives us some stuff at the beginning where she says, there are tons of ancient legends about the woods, legends of spirits like the Manitou or the Wendigo. But whatever happened to these spirits once people showed up to hack down their world? Many moved on, but some say the truly evil ones clung to home, with twisted hearts full of revenge for all who dare to disturb their home. Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And that's like when it's, I know. I was like, oh, this is an environmental parable. Also, the Wendigo is something that constantly comes up in relationship to Yellow Jackets, even though the creators have said, like, we're not using indigenous myths in this, like, because that's not cool.
Right.
But, like, it is something that story...
Well, obviously, what they're leaning on is the Jersey Devil. Doesn't anybody know anything?
Yeah, clearly
why
not.
You might think. But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then she looks at her... This is when we get the spinning compass. And I was like, oh, classic.
And it's...
Classic spinning compass.
It's such a good shorthand because, like, the X-Files, I guess magnets is what's weird. Here, it's I guess the Watcher is, to get her lost so she can't find her way back. But
Yellow Jackets, the compass is
Maybe
the iron ore, maybe, or
there's
maybe
a
whatever
Watcher
spirits.
in the Yellow Jackets woods. We don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe that's why they haven't found their way out.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's an Are You Afraid of the Dark homage.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. What if?
Yeah. So, yeah, the spinning compass, they're both lost. I got mad that the woods also tried to trap the nice kid. I was like, it's supposed to just trap the mean kid and she learns a lesson, but it also had to trap the nice kid in order for them to become friends.
Yeah, exactly. And also maybe the woods, like, nature doesn't have morals,
Right.
Nature just is here to survive and exist. So maybe that.
Also, if you see a green glow in the woods, don't fucking go there. Come on, people.
Why did she think that?
Like a light green slime-colored glow. It's very X-Files glow. The very first pilot episode where we see that green glow on the hill. Like, people are so dumb. They have no, like, spatial or awareness of danger.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But I am obsessed with how the, like, practical, barely effects, but, like, of the, they're not technically witches, but the, like, they're, I mean, I want to...
They're three old women with disturbed, like, expressions on their faces and like, weird, disformed...
And powers.
Malformed. And powers. Yeah.
It's like...
There's also a weird skinned head on a stick.
Yeah, I think that's...
I didn't like that.
Head. Well, that's what I mean. Like, some of the stuff still sticks with me. Where I'm like...
I feel like that would have been the thing that got me when I was a kid.
Moves.
Yes.
It's so silly. You just know there was somebody laying on the ground turning that stick. Like, I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
There
was also an old gramophone. I was like, ooh, old records, creepy.
Spooky. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so much of just like, what would be spooky here? Like, where did they get that from?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like old-timey ghost story, like the record player playing on its own, maybe. Flies. There's flies. That's always a bad sign.
It would be so easy for somebody to make a haunted Are You Afraid of the Dark themed walkthrough in the woods. Because so much of it was all practical stuff. And like, it would be so easy to recreate the set.
Yeah, because it's really basic.
Yeah.
It's literally a tent, some candles, and a fake boar's head on a stick. I hope it was fake.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it was the 90s.
But then we meet the three old women.
Very, very classic witch
It's my
trio.
Yeah, it's the Weird Sisters.
Yeah.
It's also notably the Hocus Pocus sisters, the Sanderson sisters.
Yep.
I mean, it's
that lineage. Yeah, exactly. They catch her in a net.
That's so funny. Well, and they say, like, first they're like, she's like, I know where your whistles are, because they tell her.
Yeah.
I think the stuff with them is actually pretty interesting because it's like they catch Kelly, and when they tell the legend, it's that these three girls got lost in the woods by the Watcher, probably, and never found their way back. But what you find out is somebody
took their whistles.
Them, Kelly, it's another mean girl, right, from 1919, took their whistles and left them to die.
Right, which is what Kelly did to Sarah.
Even though she says, I wouldn't do that when she says they have her whistles. And then Sarah's like, you literally just did that to me 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And so I like that extra layer there. But then, so then they're ghosts at this point. We know that. They're already dead because they say you'll be old and dead like us. But when... So 1919, 75 years ago, so they're in their...
mid-80s.
Yeah, mid to late 80s.
Because they were probably, 13, 12 at the time.
Right. So they're old. But did they age? Did they live 75 years in the woods and then die? Like, do you know what I mean? What is the timing here?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it could, like, you could read it, if they didn't say that, as... these old women got lost in the woods and just never got out and have been like subsistence farming and like killing
what I thought
boars
would have been the case. That's what makes the most sense. And then they're like weird, but then that doesn't explain the powers. But it's like they've been in the woods so long that the magic of the woods has kind of like seeped into them, which is cool.
Sure. Yeah.
But also they're dead, but they're old. They're not
right
because they should be
ghosts of children,
which would also be very scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's
There's a little
maybe it's like
little,
timey-wimey kind of
little fuzziness
stuff.
in there.
But so they've been gone for 75 years. I think they've been magic most of that time, but they died yesterday is all I can.
Yeah, I know. It's a little slippery.
They are credited as Bog Hag, Hump Hag, and Fat Hag.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
Wow.
I mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
None of them were fat. I don't remember any of them being fat.
I don't remember which. Yeah, I don't know who would be.
Yeah, who would be who? They all looked the same. Although one had one eye, which I didn't understand.
Again.
It had like a covered eye.
Yeah. Something must have happened while they were out in the woods. But they.
Sharp stick.
Exactly. Yeah. They play with Kelly. They say they're going to let her go. And they're like, oh, we don't believe you.
Yeah. You shouldn't.
Yeah. Hocus Pocus is only like 6 months or so before this, by the way. Hocus Pocus is July 93. And this episode, January 22nd, 1994, which was, I looked it up, a Saturday, which means that would have been my family birthday party, which means there's no way my cousins and I didn't all sit when they would come over, we would watch TV in my grandparents' bedroom because the adults would be out in the living room. So there's no way we weren't all just like sitting in a line at the foot of my grandparents' bed watching this episode.
Amazing.
On my birthday.
Amazing.
It's kind of impossible to watch these three and not think of Hocus Pocus, I think. Just the way they...
Yeah, oh, totally. Totally. But yeah, there's like this whole section where they're playing with her. They're acting like they're going to let her go. Someone shoots her with a flaming arrow, but it goes right through her. That was confusing to me.
Yeah, because I'm like, you need to make it a little more clear that they can actually hurt her. Because I'm like, maybe I'm not scared of the machete later.
Right. Because I was like, wait, well, the arrow didn't do anything.
Right. But I think
and it's one of those like, okay, how much of the threat is like conjured by the imagination and how much of it is actually physical and all of that.
And is the real issue that maybe they'll never be able to escape the woods and get home, like like Yellow
Jackets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They say they're gonna hunt her for food. Or was that Sarah or Kelly? One of them, they say they're gonna hunt for food. I think it was Sarah.
Why not? Yeah, why not work on our survival medal and hunt her for food?
Yeah, they're still working on those medals. Mm-hmm. Bunch of Girl Scout nerds or Trailblazers nerds, which felt very Yellow Jackets to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Sarah's tough. She threatens to burn down the woods when she's faced with the head that then rises, that clearly has like a dark sheet that's pulling up all the leaves.
Good. I don't know why
I'm
so delighted by those effects, but
I like the practical effects better than like the like translucent floating head
and his
things.
Like face reflected in the puddle. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah,
makes me
that
so
was
happy.
funny. But yeah, it felt very like this was when I was feeling the Jersey Devil of it all too. Just like the, her trying to sort her way out through the woods and.
Well, and then eventually she threatens to burn the woods down, and then she uses her
lighter.
Her lighter, and that she knows where the North Star is and how to use that to get home, which Kelly probably wouldn't know because she
probably has her astronomy badge.
Exactly, of course she does.
Yeah, but she has Kelly's lighter, which she threatens to use to burn down the woods. I just have to say, as someone who started many campfires, it's not that easy. That's not going to happen. You can't just burn down the whole woods.
It's with a lighter.
It's not, she's not in California, clearly. It's not in a dry place. This is like a dense, wet wood.
The forest fire warning is up, though.
I know, but you still are not going to burn down the whole woods with a lighter. I'm sorry.
Could also be like pine
maybe
barrens where it's like kind of integral to the survival of the woods that there is a burn every so often.
Yeah. I didn't buy the fact that her little Bic lighter was gonna do it.
Gonna do anything.
Yeah.
The Watcher though worked for him. What does he know?
Yeah. He collapses back down into his ground sheet.
And she goes and
grabs those whistles.
Grabs the whistles. And then
she's very fast.
These woods don't make any sense because I know that they got lost in Watcher's Woods, so it doesn't matter how far away from camp they actually were.
Right.
But still.
Yeah.
We just gotta let it. But she gets back real quick. She goes.
She gets out really easily though, and gets to the lodge and then runs right back.
Yeah, exactly. And she goes to give the whistles to the women, and one she like trips, right? I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of them lands, of course,
in the bucket of rats
or mice.
Rats. Yeah. Yep. And so now we have Kelly having to sacrifice or face her fear to save her friend.
There's also, she says, why did it have to be rats? Which is a Indiana Jones. Why does it have to be snakes? Reference 100%. For all of the 12-year-olds, well, maybe. I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably would have gotten that at the time.
I think at the time.
But
yeah. I also noted that women speaking in unison is just inherently scary.
It's women vocalizing eerily.
It's women vocalizing eerily. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. These women are definitely eerily vocalizing in the woods. But she does. She sticks her hand in the bucket.
So brave.
Right as Kelly...
No, excuse me. You could do it. They're like, if it's death or some mice you got at the pet shop.
Okay, that's the difference. If it was a thing of white mice, I wouldn't like it, but I would do it. Right. If it was rats, I might let my friend die. Just a warning, if you ever... Not that you're ever going to go camping with me.
Yeah, I'll never be camping. And also, I'm not afraid of rats, so I'll just put my hand in the bucket.
You'll do it, yeah. I mean, if they were like gray New York street rats, absolutely not. I'm so sorry.
I wouldn't be thrilled if they were gray, just because I know they do actually carry disease.
Carry diseases.
But I'd be fine.
Okay, wait, but here's a thought. Kick the fucking bucket over.
Also kick the bucket over, but then they'd be...
Then they'd be everywhere. I know, that's also a problem. But then at least you could get the freaking whistle without sticking your hand in it.
But she's so brave.
She sticks her hand in the bucket of rats, grabs that whistle and throws it right before the guillotine that's randomly in the middle of the woods.
They had ready to go. It's also like a weird Beetlejuice looking guillotine where like the blade is like what's the adjective form of stalactite? Stalactical, green glowing.
It's pointy.
Yeah, it's like pointy glowing blades. It looks cool.
Yeah. It also, though, it doesn't seem all that threatening.
Yeah, no.
Because, the fire arrow didn't work.
That's what I mean. We have
it literally, I think the guillotine literally somehow, this is a really quick thing that happens where, like, either the guillotine disappears or suddenly Sarah is, like, nowhere near it. It's just like this, as soon as the whistle gets thrown, poof.
It breaks the curse and then everything.
Yeah, everything stops.
That's the one thing. The reason they're trapped there still is that the Watcher says if you can find the whistles, then you can go. And he knew they'd never find them because some bully girl had stolen them. Right.
Yeah, but they had to blow the whistles 3 times or something. That's like the 3 blasts is the signal for danger. And then they get sort of disappeared or blipped. They get blipped back out of the woods.
I was weirdly touched when when they see the little stone formations and Sarah's like, oh, it's a trail marker. It means they've gone home. I got a little like choked up there. I thought that was sweet. It's a nice touch. And of course, even though Kelly's been to camp every year, she's never bothered to learn what any of the stone markers mean.
No. I will say, watching this as an adult, like as a kid, I'm sure I would have been relieved that Kelly and Sarah then get out of the woods. But as an adult, I was like, no, these are now the new woods people.
Yeah. That would be
Kelly and Sarah now live in the woods.
Yeah.
They're replacing the 3 women.
There's always got to be. The Watcher always needs...
He needs his companions
or
his
what I thought
guards.
Was kind of interesting is, like, again, there are a few things where he says to Sarah, he's like, you fascinate me, something. And it's like, he really does seem to be looking for people to help guard his woods.
Yeah.
I think
you need a scary legend with young girls, like creepy women haunting your woods to keep people away from it.
Exactly.
Yeah, women are good at those things.
I think that's kind of fine. And the real villain in this is teen girls, which...
Yeah.
I mean...
That's sort of our overall thesis, I think.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. But as they do get out of the woods, which I was upset about, they get out and they see an old-timey car go by with the 3 girls in it.
And is the chauffeur the Watcher?
Oh, I wasn't sure. I knew it was like the way that the camera lingers on him seems like he's significant, but it was hard to tell why for me.
Right.
Granted, I only watched it once, so I didn't like closely examine his face and then compare it.
Right.
But yeah.
I'm not sure. And I don't know how that chauffeur is credited. I don't remember seeing him on IMDb when I looked. But yeah, so they get to go home, I guess, to heaven. Imagine if they were women who are still living in those woods at 75 and hadn't died, and then the end is those two young girls coming back with these old women who are still alive, just full of peril. Like, that would be kind of amazing.
It would be. I also, like, this part, I was like, things are getting a little funky because, like, okay, they're seeing something happen that theoretically happened in 1919 with the car going by with the three girls.
I think
because
that's
they saved
the implication
them.
is that they saved them now, so it fixed it in the past, right?
Right. Yes. But then also, like, they're also, then they turn around and they're in the present also because everyone comes running out to be like, hey, you're safe.
Oh man, that would be fun, as if it had somehow swapped them and sent them back to 1919 for good.
That was the other thing. I was like, oh wait, maybe they're going to get stuck in 1919 then. Nope.
But no.
It all ends happily, which is a little bit of a bummer.
A lot of...
It's for kids.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark does end like that, but not every. There are episodes, like the one that I said that scared me forever about the toy makers has a pretty... ambiguous, no, not ambiguous, just like a kind of scary twist ending. So they don't always end so tightly, though often they do.
But yeah, it ends happily. I was just looking at the IMDb for this episode specifically. The trivia is, it's one of the only Nickelodeon shows to show a character about to light a cigarette.
Incredible. I have to say, I'm so sorry. Kelly is Jewel State, who is from a million things, but most importantly, she's Kaylee on Firefly.
Oh, okay.
She's
yeah, she looks
famous.
Vaguely familiar to me, but she's been in stuff that I'm not super familiar with.
Apparently, most recently, it's 30 episodes of Family Law, but she's just one of those people. She's also worked forever. She's great. She was also on, again, she's in 2 episodes. Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's the other thing, is some actors repeat,
come back around.
She's in an episode of the X-Files that I love. A young girl, obviously. She was on that show. I don't know if you know either Space Cases or Flash Forward. You were probably a little too old.
No.
They were also like Nick TV shows. I think they were both on Nickelodeon. Just a billion things, but most importantly, Firefly.
Yeah, she's got kind of a sci-fi bent in her IMDb.
Yeah, 33 episodes of Stargate, a show I didn't watch, an episode of Supernatural, and then,
One of the other things listed in the trivia is, you may have written this, the bucket of rats that the hags place next to Kelly are white lab mice, a human-bred variety, typically sold as domestic pets or used for animal testing. They
clearly
do not exist in the wild, and they are not rats.
I like that, and they are not rats.
Yeah.
It's so funny that they don't just change the line.
Yeah.
But fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this episode, like I said, there's a lot. It could be an episode about a bully getting a girl lost in the woods. It could be an episode about a demon in the woods. It could be an episode about 3 witches in the woods, but we get all of it.
Yeah. And, like, it's referencing so many, like, classic, like, witches in the woods tales. It's, like, connected to Blair Witch. It's connected to so many of the things we have already watched and talked about.
I'm also just obsessed. I know I talked about the Golden Trio a couple of weeks ago, which I'm also obsessed with. But there's also, I mean, like, the trio of witches as a trope they don't really fall into this quite as well because we don't get to know them as well. And they're also 3 girls who are the same age. But Maiden Mother Crone is such a... And Hocus Pocus women fall into it perfectly. Sarah Jessica Parker is the maiden, Kathy Najimy as the mother, and then Bette Midler obviously is the crone. Like,
the crone, yeah.
It's I was looking for examples of things I hadn't seen. And then so obviously like Witches of Eastwick, a really obvious one. Triplets of Belleville, which I've never watched, but really obvious
Triplets of
one.
Belleville.
And then like
Yeah.
and like the ones that are direct, because sometimes it's like these tropes find their way into our stuff without even realizing. That's what these archetypes are. They're just part of our kind of collective vocabulary. But then you have like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and her two aunts. They're witches. It's like good direct. But then like
There's Charmed.
Charmed, exactly. But then I was reading something that suggested Community with
What?
but Annie as the maiden,
Oh my God.
Shirley as the mother, and then Britta as the crone.
That's so funny.
Isn't that hilarious?
That is really
And
funny.
then I think it was just tvtropes.com. And then another one that made me laugh is Bob's Burgers, but it's obviously Linda as the mother, Tina as the maiden because she's so sex obsessed, and then Louise as the crone is so funny.
Ugh.
And those are ones where obviously like, you know, they weren't intentionally writing them that way, but it's a dynamic that works so well that it just shows up over and over again.
Yeah.
Those made me laugh really hard. I thought they were great.
It reminds me of the How Did This Get Made episode during the pandemic that they did of, I think this one might have been one that I actually watched the live stream. It was a Christmas movie that they did on a live stream. Yeah, I did watch this one in person where the Cronin training t-shirt became a thing.
Oh.
That June Diane Raphael.
Yeah.
There's a lot of yeah, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good.
It does feel good for me to know that if ever I were put into a trio of women that way, that like I would absolutely be the crone, and or actually what probably happened would be we'd be like a triple crone. I think I know way more crones than I know mothers and maidens at this point in my life.
I mean, my whole social circle is crones.
And I feels
into
good.
It. Yeah. Yeah. I think we're reclaiming spinster and we're reclaiming crone.
Yeah.
It's fuck it.
I love it.
You know.
I love it so much.
I mean, I just read recently, and I don't know, this may have been like a fake TikTok fact, but the term, I think it's the term spinster, came from the fact that it was what they would call women who were so good at weaving that they became financially independent and didn't need to get married.
Well, I don't care if it's fake or not. I like it.
I know. I've decided to just adopt it, whether it's real or not.
That rules.
This was more fun than I expected.
It's good.
So part of my, I wouldn't say hesitation, because I haven't had hesitation about this section, but like I have been like, oh, how much am I going to enjoy shows that are more geared towards younger
and are also
people?
so old.
And so, yeah, and have like definitely some questionable effects looking back 30 years ago. But that was, I mean, it's so connected to everything we've been talking about that it was like a scavenger hunt. I'm like, ooh, compass, ooh, 3 witches in the woods, ooh, like, you know, the boar's head thing was very Yellow Jackets. Like, just going through and realizing how many common tropes we're seeing, even in the kids shows versus the adult shows versus like movies. Everything is all doing a lot of the same sort of iconographic
which
things.
Makes sense when we think about the fact that we're watching these shows specifically to set the scene for I Saw the TV Glow, which is made by somebody who is about our age, like in our age range, and influenced, I think, more specifically by the stuff, obviously, that I grew up on than what you grew up on.
Yeah.
But still, that like that common vocabulary.
Yeah. Well, and the stuff you grew up on came out of the stuff that I grew up on.
Exactly.
So it's all kind of in the same
really
vein.
Fun to see all of that happening.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about the other episode I told you I was torn between two.
Yeah.
I just want to mention this real quick while we're talking about connections. The other episode that I was going to have us watch is from season 4. It's called The Dangerous Soup, which is it's
a great name.
It's a really silly episode. It's really unique. It's one that isn't, as far as I know. I mean, there's only like 5 things we're all afraid of that just gets repackaged, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, but it's one that I don't think has like the plot isn't based in something, I don't know, whatever. But it's real weird. It's real zany. And it stars Neve Campbell. There are a lot of people. So I almost wanted us to watch that one just because it's so weird and fun. But this is obviously the one to watch. But Are You Afraid of the Dark is full of, there's like an episode with Ryan Gosling in the lead, Gilbert Gottfried's in an episode, Melissa Joan Hart is in an episode, Alicia Cuthbert, Hayden Christensen, Rachel Blanchard, who else? Nev, obviously. These are all people I don't know. Tia and Tamara Mowry.
All the classics from that time period.
Like, literally.
Everybody went through it. It's like the it's like the Law and Order of kids television.
Yeah. Jay Baruchel's in an episode. He's in a really scary one. So it's full of, that's exactly right. It's like the Law and Order of
everybody gets a shot at it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to highlight that. But Nev's great in it, of course. She's a little older because it's about people who work at a restaurant. That episode. It's not every episode is about kids.
Kids.
Mostly they are, actually. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, I mean, kids want to watch other kids.
Yeah. But it's weird now that I think about it that some of them aren't kids because they almost all are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society.
Yes, we've successfully gotten out of the woods. Not gotten trapped as the new crones.
That's right. Be writing some strongly worded letters to our parents.
Yeah, it's not going to work though. They don't care. Builds character, as they say.
Gross. I got enough character. I have plenty of character.
If anybody desperately wants to hear that letter, I did call into the voicemail line on New Jersey's The World and left a dramatic reading. So maybe that'll get played at some point.
I'm sure that it will. We haven't recorded an episode for that yet, but I think we will in the next week or two. So check it over there. I can't wait to hear it.
So what's next week? Because I think we've had a little programming change.
Yeah, I lied to everyone when I said, I think I did say what shows we were going to watch, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I believe I said, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and Pete and Pete. And the reason that I chose Goosebumps, it's not a show that I watched more than like we watched an episode during school on Halloween, like that kind of thing, you know? I loved the books as a kid, but I didn't get into the show. You would have been, again, I think in college. It's right around this time, but I think a year or two later. The only reason I picked it is because people mention it when they talk about I Saw the TV Glow. But I think the only reason it gets mentioned directly is because it's another horror anthology show, which has, what am I trying to say? Which is relevant to I Saw the TV Glow. But Are You Afraid of the Dark is the one. Like, we don't need to do two. That's the one that's really being, I think, referenced. Okay. And so I was thinking about it, and it is so obvious to me that it's not Goosebumps we should be watching. And I'm surprised more people haven't talked about this in conversation with I Saw the TV Glow. And it might just be because Jane hasn't mentioned it directly, I don't think. But is Salute Your Shorts.
So we're breaking ground here is what you're saying.
I think we might be breaking ground.
Original scholarship?
And we're also, it might be. And we're also not letting you leave camp quite yet, Jodie. I think you've still got some issues to work out.
I'm really not happy about that part of it. But
did you watch Salute Your Shorts?
No.
Oh, man.
Again, I am older than you.
I know,
by about a decade.
Salute Your Shorts rules. You would have, but that one's even a little older though. That one ran just from July of 91 to September of 92.
I was in high school though.
Okay. The kids are a little older on Salute Your Shorts as well. They're like, it's kids at camp, but they're all in their.
I was watching Pump Up the Volume and bemoaning life in suburbia and discovering my burgeoning queerness. I was not watching camp kids shows.
Yeah. But it is, I was obsessed with it. I love this show. And it's got a couple of episodes. It's set at a summer camp, Camp Anawana. A play on the exclamation, I don't want to, says Wikipedia.
Perfect.
And focuses on teenage campers, their strict bossy counselor, and the various capers they engage in. Yeah, the show, it really is. I feel like I've said this a few times of like, if you put these things in a blender, you get Andrea, about a few different things. But if we're really going back to the beginning, the first shows I loved were Are You Afraid of the Dark, Salute Your Shorts, and then above all else, Pete and Pete, of course.
Right.
Like, this is everything. So there were a couple of different episodes I was torn between. It weirdly, like, season 1 got 13 episodes, season 2 got 13 episodes, but when I went to look online to see where we could watch it, there are some terrible YouTube uploads and like Daily Motion uploads I'm not going to make us watch. But Amazon and Paramount Plus, and I think maybe Apple TV all have like 6 episodes from each season. And the one that's like perfect for what we've been talking about for this show and for I Saw the TV Glow is one called Ghost Story. It's season 1, episode 3. It aired July of 1991. It is, again, an image. There's something in this episode that is so deeply burned in my brain. And it's, yeah, like I said, it's called Ghost Story. So it's, should I read? I'll read the summary. Budnick retells a ghost story of Zeke the plumber. And I won't read the next line because it spoils it. But it's kids at camp telling a ghost story. So.
Okay.
It's again also 25 minutes long.
I love that.
And then
I love that a lot.
We'll have plenty to talk about for that episode as well. And then the week after that.
Yeah.
Pete and Pete. I might ask us to do 2 episodes for Pete and Pete because there are 2 that are so perfect and they're both short and we'll see. We'll see how I feel. I've got to watch them both again and we'll decide, but
that's fair. Can we, in the show notes, put a link to this article by Kendra James about the Indian princesses? Mm-hmm. Okay, because this is like...
I have that set.
Yeah. My friend Lori from Saddlebrook, I think occasionally listens to this podcast, and I'm pretty sure she was also in this with me. I don't want to cast aspersions.
Unbelievable.
But I feel like she might have been another one. I'm not entirely sure, so she can correct me if I'm wrong. But
truly unbelievable that
it was not uncommon in my group of people at the time.
Uncommon in the United States. Again, I can't believe that's not just a secret shame of New Jersey's.
I know. A bunch of white people cosplaying as indigenous.
Truly wild.
It was wild.
I'd ask if you have any recommendations for our listeners, but other than Dawson's Creek, I don't know that you are...
I'm watching Dawson's Creek. I'm watching Alone still. It's still good. The podcast is still a good reason for me to keep watching it because it's entertaining. But yeah, that's kind of all I've been doing. I'm still watching Industry. I still don't know why. But yeah, so I guess that's it. We will see you back at camp next week.
Camp Anawana.
One more week. Mom still hasn't picked me up. She's still just letting me suffer here in this prison.
Knowing
that I might die.
So funny.
She still just is letting it happen.
Yep.
Really unfair.
Well,
where can they find us?
Oh, right. We're at WatchersPod on Instagram.
WatchersPodNJ.
At Gmail. I'm at AQAndreaQ.
And I am Jodie _Mim. JODIE_MIM on Instagram.
We'll see you at camp.
Back at camp.
Bye-bye.
Unless I have snuck out and run away. I'm hitchhiking on the highway.
You'll be stranded in the woods forever.
Trying to get back across Jersey.